What's up, family? Welcome back to Israel's Movie Reviews, and we are going to continue throughout our MCU universe chronological order movie film reviews, and we're going to go with 2015's Avengers, the second film, Age of Ultron, and this full movie, I'm strictly going to say it wasn't as good as the first film, but it's still a solid enough sequel. It does have some memorable scenes that you think back and you're like, oh, this was this film. Okay. So, Avengers Age of Ultron is a solid sequel. Though not as good as Assemble, the first film, not without its flaws. There are a few issues with pacing in this film as a result of a few overlong scenes that didn't go very far, in my point of view. Like, as admirable as it was to do more with Hawkeye in this film, his character, there was a farm scene which grinded the film to kind of a halt somewhat. Parts that were not as developed and I would have liked, for them to have been more developed, and it didn't add much to the film. And some of the many characters were very, it was unique because, some were more interesting than others. And I didn't like that in the film. Usually, if you're going to have a superhero film, follow what you did. Follow what you did in the first film. Have them equal with basically equal, things to do in the movie. Since this was a sequel, make it bigger, better. You understand what I'm saying? I wanted to get that feel. I didn't get that film throughout the film. While, one does admire that more was attempted to be done with Hawkeye, that I mentioned, he still felt kind of underwritten and not always necessary. Ultron, despite a cool appearance and chilling voice work from the legendary James Spader, who I'm a huge fan of, especially his work on Blacklist, he's very underdeveloped and not very interesting, and he's a one-dimensional type villain and doesn't pose enough of a threat for me in this movie. Although he's very powerful, and what he does definitely takes effect throughout this film. Definitely takes effect throughout the country, without spoiling much. And while most of the comedy is fun, it's very funny, very witty, like in the other films, there are moments that jar too much. When the scene is serious and intense, it kind of spoils the mood. However, for me, Age of Ultron's Vision, you can tell, all points intended, we do get introduced to Vision in this movie, which looks fantastic. Ultron looks fantastic, very slick shot and edited with, sumptuous and atmospheric sets, very cool costume designs, and quite spectacular special effects as also. CGI in this movie, I think, is phenomenal. The music avoids being overbearing or very bombastic, as they would say, as well as avoiding being too quirky or one-note centric. Joss Whedon ensures that the fun and tension rarely slip, and that's a good deal of the characterizations in this film, which are kept interesting. Visually and stylistically, there's nothing to fault here in this film. Everything in those in that aspect, those things were flawless. Furthermore, the film is, like I mentioned before, witty, very cleverly put together, intelligently scripted, with a good deal of tonal shifts, handled well with some of the most jarring humor, but it was a little disappointing at times. While not perfect in execution, the story is very absorbing. There are plenty of fun moments in this. There's thrilling choreography, which sometimes the choreography in these films could get a little boring, but it was choreographed well and executed well, especially, the earth-shattering climax. And while it could have been developed a little more, it could have been a little less forced, actually, when introduced. Hawk and Black Widow's relationship is given admirably sensitive treatment here, which I was in the middle for, The film's characters are mostly interesting and engaging. They're not complex. and I kind of wanted them to be, but that wasn't expected. The acting for me was impeccable. Robert Downey Jr., Chris Hemsworth, Chris Evans really excel in their roles. I felt like these roles were tailor-made, especially for them. With Scarlett Johansson also, she gives a fearless intensity to Black Widow, which I love. And Mark Ruffalo is by far the best and most layered live-action Hulk we have to date. He's just simply off the charts. I said this before, James Spader, he's chilling as the voice of Ultron. I think that was a great casting. And one does wish that more was done with his character, though. You have Paul Bettany, who's introduced in this movie as the Vision, who is a phenomenal character and a great addition to the story. He actually gets a lot of screen time, along with Samuel Jackson here, who's a great value. We get the introductions to the twins, Aaron Johnson and Elizabeth Olsen, who play newcomers, Wanda and Quicksilver. And, let's not forget, Jeremy Renner, who starred in this pretty solid sequel. But there's still a lot to say when it comes to this film, Age of Ultron, to me, was quite a bit of fun. And, we all know by now it wasn't better than the first one. But with that being said, here's some of my positives, right? One, the characters, all of the Avengers are back, including some of the new faces, like I mentioned. The banter here, I think, was stronger in this film than we got in the first. And that's hard because the first film was flawless. I especially love the scene where they're all trying to pull Thor's hammer. And they just chill and talk. And it's a real funny scene. Very fun to watch. The introduction of Vision was awesome. Paul Bettany did a great job as the character. And, once I saw that character, I couldn't wait for future installments with him in it, in those films as we got later on. Other than that, the characters are just awesome as the first film. And without them, this film obviously will be nothing, right? Without these title characters. Two, the visuals. The visuals and the action stylistically, I think this film is better than the first Avengers. Yeah, a lot of people probably disagree with me, but the action in this film, to me, overtook that first film. That first film gets overlooked at times because it starts off with a nice action scene, and that scene in Manhattan in New York City, lasts a while. It's about 20-30 minute scene. So the first movie had the full screen TV type look to it, but here this actually looks like a movie. Looks like a film, especially with the action scenes, which are spectacular. The Hulkbuster scene was by far my favorite. The Sokovia sequence was intense and fun too. The tone, I found this film to be darker than the first movie. Some of the scenes, they don't hold back, and they give some thought-provoking themes, especially for a Marvel movie. Themes of some parts that, make you think, like, wow, can't believe they lost the contract, can't believe they did that. This was the consequences of Robert Downey Jr.'s character. So, it's crazy the way this film worked. And I thought in those aspects, I thought it succeeded. It was well written in that way. Number three, I found this film to be honestly a fan, heartfelt film. Except for I wasn't a fan of the Quicksilver in this film. I love Aaron Taylor Johnson, but the Quicksilver in this film was bland. Felt like a fake Russian with that fake, Russian accent that didn't help. I prefer the Fox Quicksilver. I thought he was amazing. The build-up, the setup to Ultron was rushed, and Ultron himself wasn't a very compelling villain, in my opinion. Although I think James Spader did well with what he was given. I think he excelled. He was pretty disposable, which is ironic because he literally was in the film, But, James Spader did a great job voicing him, at least. The setup of Bruce Banner and Black Widow's romance I felt was poorly handled. Of course, I don't want to see a rom-com when we see an action film, but I don't have a problem with those two being together per se. It's just I felt that it was sloppy, and I had a problem with them not setting it up, building it up the right way. Other than that, I'm cool with them being together if they were going to be together overall. And we'll see in the next films, as you know, what happens with them. But we'll get to those in later reviews. Overall, Avengers Age of Ultron it's not as good as the first film. And it does have its problems, does have its flaws. However, I did enjoy the film, and the high points were more than the low points to me. The characters are still awesome, and it was a lot of fun. I think this one is very entertaining, you know. In both the expectations and the results, they differ. You know, I expected so much more, but it didn't result in a boring movie. It just resulted in a predictable story, a very formulaic plot, and it landed with me in between for the most part. I found it very tedious at times with certain plots in the movie. Sometimes I felt like I was watching a Transformer movie, honestly, in certain parts of the movie. But thanks to the acting, it definitely didn't go, you know, that far in the negative. You know, this was an electrifying cast under the guidance of Joss Whedon. The storyline was pretty cool, but underwhelmed at times. And overall, regardless of the faults, it does fit well in the universe. So I give this movie a 7.5 out of 10. That to me, that's being generous. Overall, good film. So definitely check it out. And if you liked this review, hit that like button, hit that notification bell. And if you want more content from me, all you gotta do is continue to come back, family. Continue to come back. And you already know, till the next time. Peace.